it's rampant, and it was always rampant. The Mexican culture, you have the curanderos. Every culture has some form of witchcraft, and yes, it's a mirror type situation. You have the good and you have the bad. I hope that helped answer some of the idea of why it's associated with evil.
Okay, we have another question here, and it's like, do you find that some of the rituals of the Catholic Church are similar to pagan rituals? And we talk about the brujos. Actually, a lot of, if you go back into early Catholicism, a lot of the rituals are very similar to shamanistic type rituals. And if you look at all religions, there is a type of connection with all of them. When we're talking about witchcraft, it's not necessarily just witchcraft that we're talking about. That's the other term for it. But it's really that Wiccans. And the Wiccans are more along the earthbound religion type areas. And with the brujos and that, it's the curanderos type thing. It's the accepting of nature, of not just worshiping the one Almighty, but the worshiping of everything around us that God created. And that's what a lot of people have to look at. As far as the Catholic Church goes, I've been to England and I did study some Wicca there. And a lot of your churches there were built to encourage the pagans to come to the church. And then once they felt, or they were forced to go to the church, and then in encouraging them and enforcing them, they would use a lot of the saints in Catholicism are the same as the gods and goddesses in the practicing of the different earth religions. And that was their way of attracting them to the church and then keeping them there. There's another question we have now about the acrostic Bibles, a lot with the Psalms, that they sound like chants. And they did, because it was a form of meditation. The chant is a form of prayer. It's a form of meditation, and it's a form of speaking to spirit in that way. And once you get the chant going, if you will, then you allow yourself to enter into that altered consciousness. And therefore, there was a reason why they would do that. Okay? Real quick, again, I want to put out that phone number for anyone who wants to call, and that's 1-888-919-BELL, 1-888-919-2355. And you can join us live on chat at www.inceptionradionetwork.com and just press on the live with chat there. I want to go back to why is witchcraft associated with Wicca also, and that's not necessarily, it's the Wicca is more of a you speak with your God type religion, and more of the dharmic or the more structured type religions wanted to be the middleman, if you will, that there was no talking to God on the other side. You had to go through them in order to reach God on the other side. So therefore they would create it as something evil, because you were not going through the proper channels, if you will. And that was through the church. It was their way of being in control. Okay? Again, for all of you out there, we want to say it's a great, blessed Halloween for you, a blessed Samhain, and thank you all for being with us tonight. JR?
Yeah, I wanted to, I have to admit that when I started my quest, I started looking for the main witchcraft. Where did it all begin? And in my search, I contacted numerous people via internet, including he's a very good witch, I guess, in England. He is extremely knowledgeable. His name is Michael Howard. He is a producer of a book called The Cauldron, which comes out I think once every 3 months. Now he's extremely knowledgeable in traditional witchcraft, and basically he's from a section or a portion or a facet called Luciferian witchcraft. Not my particular path, but still an interesting individual and a very knowledgeable person. In addition, I want to tell you that I spoke with a Dr. Sabina Magliocco. I was studying Italian witchcraft, Stregaism. And if you'll bear with me, I would like to read a short email that she sent me, because this this really conceptualizes, this focuses, this highlights the idea of witchcraft in one study. And it's, "Dear Mr. Calamia, thank you for your letter and your interest in this work," and so on and so forth. And it says, I quote, "It might be helpful to keep in mind that modern pagan religions are reclaimed traditions with little that directly connects them to that was practiced in the ancient past. At the same time, tradition is a process rather than a product. There is no pure form of ancient magical practice because all traditions are constantly changing in response to the needs of their practitioners and the surrounding culture and religious influences. Like music and food," and she puts in parentheses, "my two other obsessions, magic is extraordinarily sensitive to innovation and quickly takes in new influences, incorporating them into existing systems. Therefore, trying to arrive at any kind of original magical or pagan practice is a bit like trying to separate scrambled eggs into its original components." So I think that explains it extremely well. And Dr. Magliocco did her doctorate and her PhD in witchcraft, and I believe her specialty was Stregaism in Sicily and Sardinia. She has published several books that you can find on the internet or on Amazon.com, and very knowledgeable woman, extremely helpful.
Again, once again, let's give out that phone number. It's 1-888-919-BELL, 1-888-919-2355. And again, you can join us live with chat on www.inceptionradionetwork.com. Thank you guys again for being here and listening to us tonight. It's Halloween out there. The ghouls are walking, the kids are knocking, and it's a wonderful time. To me, it's my most favorite time of the year.
She's a witch.
No, we both are in our own right. I think everybody does to a point. I want to go back with what JR was reading earlier from Dr. Maglioia about how there is no true form anymore. And that's part of the my belief as far as Wiccan and earth religions go, is that it has the ability to transform or to change as the needs of the practitioner or the needs of the moment are. Whatever's going on during that time with the world, whatever's going on at that time, what's going on around you, it has the ability to transform and to change. Where a lot of the more indoctrinated religions, it's very difficult for them to change because they want to follow a very structured path, if you will. And that's one of the blessings, if you will, of a more nature-based belief system, is that it changes as you change. You change with it. And as long as you continue to grow in a positive way and work in a light-minded way, that's what comes into play, and that's what you have to look at, is that it's the truth in the best way possible for all those concerned. Okay?
If there's any questions on witchcraft specifically, we'd appreciate if we get either some calls or some questions coming across.
And also, if you have any psychic questions, that's what we're here for today.
Yeah, because what we're talking about is a very large realm. Witchcraft, psychic work, it's all intertwined in some form or fashion. In witchcraft, there's various types of witches. There's the traditional witch, there's the Wiccan, there's the hedge witch, just an entire variety. And in the Southwest, as I said, we have the curanderos, and as far as Southwest witchcraft goes, there's just a couple of things of interest. For instance, in this area, we see a lot of adobe houses, especially up toward New Mexico, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and so forth. And a lot of these houses have turquoise or blue window frames and doors. And it's kind of pretty when it stands out against the mud-baked brick and stuff. And in my quest in studying witchcraft, I found that one of the reasons that they paint blue window frames and blue door frames is to keep out witches. The Hispanic culture uses the more Hispanic Indian uses the blue because it represents, or it's affiliated or associated with the Virgin Mary cult. And the Virgin Mary, of course, is their main protector, their main goddess. And we can get into variations of goddesses if you want, but the Virgin Mary is definitely one of those styles as well. The American Indian likes the turquoise more because it's closer to nature, but it serves as the same respect, for the same respect. In addition, they like to close the shades at night because they fear that the witches will come around and look through the windows and send out what they call the mal ojo, or the bad eye. And in Southwest witchcraft, as well as in European witchcraft, witches ride brooms. Not all brooms, but some of them ride gourds. Some of them ride, there's in the Slavic and Russian, the witch, Baba Yaga, rides a big mortar. So she picks up children in it and runs away with them. There's just so much involved that it would take more than all night to go through it.
Okay. We have a question here that I'd like to work with right now. It is, what is the history and meaning of the broom we always see with the classic Halloween image of a witch?
Good question.
And what I'd like how I'd like to answer that is that actually that's a misnomer, okay? Because what happened or what brought that about was that in the old days when they practiced the earth religion, that they would go out and they would get their rakes and they would get their brooms and they would get their tools for toiling in the dirt. And they would plant the seeds and then they would get those tools and they would dance around the fields with these tools and jumping and dancing and they were teaching or they were helping or they were showing the seeds they had just planted how to grow. And that is what came across with the image of the witch on the broom. Okay?
Can I add to that?
Sure.
What Diana told you is right. Historically, that's how they believe that the broom became affiliated or associated with witchcraft. But earlier we were discussing how the church changed and demonized a lot of these things. So it didn't become, again, the intent changes here. And in the process of demonizing, you want to dehumanize, or you want to make somebody look smaller, or make them look in a dark light. So the broom quickly became a phallic symbol. And the broom is a phallic symbol. It can be a phallic symbol, and the witch riding the broom, of course, represents her running off and going to enjoy the other things of life. And this was done by the church purposely. And I was actually baptized Catholic. I'm not here to demonize the Catholic Church or any other church, believe me. But this is simply reality. This is history, and this is what conquering institutions do to one another. For instance, there's the idea of the Celtic cross. I'm sure all of you have seen the Celtic cross, or the Irish cross, the Scottish cross. It looks like a normal crucifix, but it has a large circle in the center with Celtic-style art in it. Now, a lot of people believe that that is the aura of Christ that encircles the cross, which it well could be. However, there is another theory that when Ireland became Christianized and they got rid of the pagans, or they pushed them underground rather than get rid of them, they had some pretty hefty people to deal with. They had the Scottish, they had the Picts, they had the Brits, numerous tribes, and these people, like anybody else, simply they don't give up old ways very easily. And what they believe happened was that the ancient pagans, of course, warred against each other just like the Southwest Indians did, the Apaches and the Comanches and so on and so forth. And when they defeated an enemy, they took his head. And it was a sign of masculinity. It was a sign of power. So they would cut off the head. And sometimes they would inscript a head into the rock, a circle into the rock to represent the head. The circle also represents, as you know, the sacred symbolism of paganism. And so the circle was inscribed on rocks. when Catholicism, or when the church went in and took over Ireland and England and Scotland, they stamped the cross over some of these circles. And that's how they believe that the Irish or Celtic cross actually developed. Whether it's all true or not, I don't know, but it makes sense.
Okay. We have here a real quick comment about how the broom is also used to clean the sacred space before rituals are performed. And yes, that is true. It is used for the sacred space. But we were answering the question about why is the image of the witch with the broom. And with that being said, real quick, before we go into our break, I wanted to give you all a real quick spell, if you will, in which Wiccans might use a broom in their spell work, actually. The belief is that if you don't want anyone to bother your home, or if you have unwanted guests and you want them to leave, that it would be your best to get a broom and point it with the handle facing the front door, and that would bring people to leave your home. And if you wanted to welcome people into your home, you would point the broom with the handle facing into the house so that you could welcome in family and friends and that into your house. But most importantly, if you want to get rid of those in-laws or those people that are bothering you, point the broom at the door and let them go their merry way, if you will. So the broom is very sacred to the witches for a lot of different things, or to the Wiccans for a lot of different reasons. Real quick, I wanted to answer another question before we go on to break. And is there any particular oil that is recommended for protection? And with that, real quick, I just wanted to say that the oil is really one of your choice. It's what you feel comfortable with. So with that being said, there is no different oils for different folks. It depends on who you are. With that being said, I'd like to give this opportunity for us to go on break. I believe it's a 10-minute break, and then we'll be right back with you, and we'll get back to some of these questions that you have. Thank you again for being a part of our discussion tonight.
Don't fly off yet. We're going to come back.
Don't hop on that broom yet. We'll be here for you. Again, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take a break. And this is JR and Diana Calamia tonight. Hi, good evening, everybody. This is JR and Diana Calamia with you back again. Again, I want to remind you about our phone lines. It's 1-888-919-2355, 1-888-919-2355. Or you can join us live on chat at www.inceptionradionetwork.com. I want to go back to a little comment that was put in here by Uncle, where he talks about how the broom gave my mother a better reach when she wanted to beat my bottom. To say it a little bit cleaner online. But I had to really laugh at that. I was telling Joe off the line or off air about how that brought back memories from when I was a little girl. We had a hallway, and I used to be able to shimmy up the hallway where I could actually hang with my back up against the ceiling. And when my mom was angry with me or whatever, that's what I would do, was shimmy up the hallway. And she had to come and get a broom to beat me down, if you will, poke me down from the ceilings. And I guess that's when I first learned how to ride a broom, if you will. I want to go back on a couple of questions that we have here real quick about the study of the different sciences, if you will, the different, how would you call it, spiritual healing practices out there, and how they compare with science. Real quick, I just wanted to say that on some of the spiritual healings, if you were, JR and I practice Reiki. We're both Reiki master practitioner teachers. And actually, science is starting to find that there is a real correlation between that, and that there is, they are finding that there is belief, or there is the opportunity of spiritual healing actually working. And they're finding that in science. And a lot of doctors now are even practicing, or they're bringing spirituality into their healing, because it is a matter of we have 4 bodies: mind, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. And any of those bodies will interact with the 4 bodies. And that's one way to think about it, is that if you're sick in one body, you manifest illness in the other body. Another question that I wanted to touch back on it again is about when working with candles, is it true that different colors have different results? That's very true. Actually, I do a candle magic class, and I do teach about the different colors of candles and what they're used for. And a lot of people don't like to work with a black candle. And I want to say right now, most importantly, that a black candle isn't necessarily a representation of anything negative or a representation of death or evil. Actually, the black candle represents a release, if you will. Black is the absence of color, where white is all color combined. So when you work with a black candle, when I work with a black candle, and when I teach people to work with black candles, I ask them to use them as a form of letting go. When there's something that you're wanting to release, even if you want, one of the best practices that a lot of people work with when that come to me is that when they're trying to sell a home or they're trying to get rid of something in their life, and I'm talking about materialistically, a home, a car, or something, that to light a black candle to release any ties that they may have to that home or to that automobile or to whatever it is that they're trying to let go of at this time, so that they can go ahead and move forward in a more positive way. Okay. The other question that I wanted to touch on really quick is, what is your opinion of the religion on Santeriaism? And in actuality, we don't really want to bash any religion. And my opinions or my beliefs, most importantly, are that everyone is entitled to their belief or their religion. Santeria is another form of it's pagan. I don't practice it. I can't say I'm an expert on it, but my belief with Santeriaism, it's very much more tied in with Catholicism, because they've turned their gods into the Catholic saints, if you will. But it's also supposedly a very old religion, or a very religion from the beginning, if you will, from what they were believed in or what their beliefs were. So again, my belief is that as long as you believe in something greater than yourself, and as long as you follow that spiritual path, that's why there's so many of them. Have you ever heard that comment about God is so big, that's why there's so many different religions, because there is so many different ways to believe in God. So it's your opportunity to do that. Okay?
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned Santeriaism. Personally, I myself, I'm like Diane. I don't want to bash any religion. Santeriaism is really not for me personally. It is a combination of Catholicism, and I believe a lot of it originated in Africa and the Caribbean islands, kind of a mixture of everything. But it is a renowned and well-known religion within itself. Speaking of religions or crafts that utilize both church items as well as pagan items, I'd like to delve a little bit into the difference between the traditional witchcraft and that of the Wiccan. Basically, and it's not because I'm intelligent or smart about it, it's simply because of what I've read by Michael Howard. He deserves the credit, the one that I was telling you about, who belongs to it's called the Tubal Cain. It is a Luciferian group, and it's out of England. But he's written numerous articles, and he's like I said, he's extremely intelligent. But the main difference, as he says, and from what I have found out, is that traditional witchcraft in England, there are several variations, and Diane may argue with me somewhat on this, but the traditional witchcraft in England, instead of the high priestess, the traditional one, the original, it was the high priest. It was the male-oriented. He ran the coven. After the Battle of Hastings in 1066, when the French and the Normans came in, their main leader within witchcraft was the female, and it was kind of unknown to the Brits, and there was a lot of problems that went on. Now I think it's pretty well accepted that most covens and witchcraft, if you will, the craft, Wicca, it's basically run, and it is more oriented toward female. I'd like to read just a couple of blurbs from an article called Witchcraft Before Wicca by Michael Howard. And if you'll bear with me just for a second, this is Today, such forms of pre-Wiccan traditional witchcraft are variously known as the traditional craft, the old craft, the elder craft, the sabbatic craft, the cunning craft, the nameless art, and the crooked path. And there is another group, even here in the United States, called the crooked path. Again, not my path. He also says that the witches in traditional witchcraft utilized, it was a dual faith. They utilized charms, amulets, prayers, and incantations used both to invoke Jesus, the Virgin Mary, the Trinity, and they would use amulets from the church in various ways, and they would combine them with their own. Also, traditional witches in England, as Michael Howard says, that they're a little more prone to believing in nature, not so much as the candy cane type nature like Wicca. You know, I'm somewhat of a tree hugger, but the fact is, traditional witches, traditionalists recognize, this is Howard now, recognize that nature can be a red tooth and claw, and that natural laws are based on the survival of the fittest. So they understand the cycle of life. I think they accept it more readily and more realistically, I guess, than the Wiccan, especially in today's Wiccan.
Okay, we have a caller. Let's go to our caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And who are you speaking with right now?
This is Rock.
Hi, Rock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm just fine. What can we help you with tonight?
I'm having health issues, actually very serious health issues. And I just want to know, am I seeing the right doctors, and do you think I'll get better?
You know, Rock, when I tap into your energy, what I get is that a lot of it, and it goes back into what some of the things that we're talking about right now, is what they're talking about on the chat room, about how we think. What we think is what we create. And I want to tell you that most importantly, the biggest thing with you right now is that you need to start believing that you are going to get better, because I really feel that you are. I see a beautiful purple light surrounding you and healing you, if you will. I do believe that you're speaking with or talking to the best doctors available to you right now, but you've lost your sense of faith, if you will. You've lost your belief that you will get well. And I think that's what you need to turn back to, is to turn back into that faith of that, and don't allow yourself to be taken apart, or to allow your mental process to destroy you physically. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But I do see you getting better. I do see the opportunity for you to really, really do well. But again, I want you to start thinking more